Hello and welcome to the International Pentagon Challenge. My name is Kyanite and together we'll be embarking on a very special Football Manager journey where we'll aim to try and win every major international competition in all 5 continents, forcing our hand to play with hundreds of different types of players and most importantly hopefully create loads of awesome different types of tactics along the way. Once that's complete, only then are we allowed to set our sights on the biggest of all goals, the FIFA World Cup. How many nations will we have to manage until we work our way to the top? How many dodgy names will we have to pronounce along the way? So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to episode 73, I think, of the International Pentagon Challenge. So you might realise that there was no episode on Monday. I do want to apologise for that. The reason behind that is the fact that I have been very, very ill over the past week or so. And to be honest, it's just been a really, really bad cold. One of them really annoying colds where every time you try to speak, you get a tickle in your throat and then you just end up having a cough fit. And I don't want to end up having a coughing fit whilst trying to record one of these episodes. But fortunately, I have woken up today. And as you can see, I am feeling a little bit better. So I thought it was about time that I updated you guys on how life currently is for us at Mexico. So if you can remember as far back as the last episode, obviously we were always going to have a tough start because our first game in charge of Mexico was going to be a massive one. It was going to be the CONCACAF Cup, where we got drawn obviously against Canada because of how that works, and I did actually end up looking into how that works, but I'm not going to bother going into the details of it. And it's also worth mentioning that Canada are the current kind of CONCACAF Gold champions, so they are basically the current North American champions. And I'm pleased to say we beat them 4-1. It wasn't easy, as we can see from the match stats. Really, it was quite an even game. But our 5 clear-cut chances to their 0 say otherwise. So I am going to leave the highlights kind of running in the background whilst we talk about one or two things, simply because this is really the main genuine match that we've kind of played up until this point. As you can see, we did go 1-0 down. And one thing we mentioned when we kind of initially looked at this Mexico side was that while we had a lot of world-class players, we didn't really have much world-class in the wide areas. So it seemed really evident that our squad was going to be strangely filled with mainly playmaker, technical style of players. So I hinted at the fact that we may end up basically going for more of a narrow formation approach. Now, we obviously played with a narrow 4-3-3 with North Korea. I think one more goal to go. Yep. But I kind of still consider the 2 strikers to be more wide men. With Mexico, we have genuinely gone with an out-and-out narrow approach. And when I say that, we also don't emphasise too much play on the wide men either. So the system that we've ended up going for so far and has been, I won't say working wonders, but it's been getting us results so far, and I think getting the best out of our players, is this 4-1-3-2. And the fact that we basically managed to get silverware in our first match with Mexico says it all. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we've conquered North America, because that's not the cup that we want to win. But it's a nice bonus to obviously go on my personal CV in my career milestones down here, and a great start to my managerial career in North America and with Mexico. So in terms of the system itself, it's a 4-1-3-2. Now, I was kind of debating whether or not I even wanted to play with 2 strikers, because to be fully honest, our strikers aren't even that great. But for a system like this, where we're still putting emphasis on transitioning from back to front quickly, because that's just how most of my systems end up being. It's how I tend to tailor my teams. It's how I like to play football. You need that second striker to add balance to the side overall. It's all good, you know, packing the midfield like we're doing, but at the end of the day, if we've got no one but a single striker as a threat going forwards, because we're not playing with wide wingers pushed up to support him, you're going to struggle. And fortunately for us, it's worked pretty well for us. So the aim of the game tactically for us really is to start by playing out the back. We transition on how deep we're defended and how direct we're playing, depending on the quality of opposition we're playing against. And really the idea is the kind of centre midfielder on attack pushes up to become more of kind of a shadow striker, a box-to-box, kind of a Frank Lampard-style player who arrives in the box late on to support the two strikers in this case. Both of our strikers are poachers because we have relatively pacey strikers. And I believe that will help us transition. And if they can stay on the shoulders of the last two defenders at all times and keep them problems, then whilst opposition will want to try and pack the midfield against us, they won't be able to because they'll have the two strikers that they need to basically be worried about because of the runs that they might end up making. The fact that they're poachers means that we do get caught offside quite a lot, but as we'll see from the results, it's worked pretty well. We have a deep line playmaker because, well, we have quite a few players that kind of suit that style of role, and with the fullbacks kind of providing width at times. The fact that they're on support means they're not focused mainly on just attacking, but they will go forward when the opportunity arises. Having that defensive midfielder just kind of backs up our two centre-backs if needed when it comes to preventing opposition counter-attacks, and we've got basically two box-to-box midfielders. Now, I was kind of contemplating going for Carrileros or Mazzalas, and to be fair, I did play around with them for a little bit, but I think the box-to-box has given us the best balance. And, you know, for me, the box-to-box is basically the most difficult central midfield role. And while most of our central midfield players are great technical players, which naturally makes them great playmakers, and if I basically listen to my assistant manager, I'd have three deep line playmakers on defend. The fact of the matter is, in terms of a system, in terms of how we want to play as a unit and as a team, in terms of scoring goals, playing three deep line playmakers on defend won't win us games, right? You can see how good this guy is, and that's why I'm utilising two box-to-box midfielders that can give us stuff defensively, that can, you know, do the defensive work when they need to, but at the same time can also put a shift in going forwards, and they don't have to push too far forwards because we have two strikers and Colin who pushes up and one or two of the fullbacks on the overlap as well, so they can provide us that extra bit of technicality deep from midfield. For example, we cross a ball into the box, they can then pick it up and use their great vision, great passing to try and unlock the opposition defence that way. So that's really the system that we are playing, and it's pretty self-explanatory, to be fair. Team instruction wise, again, pretty self-explanatory. So if we take a look at our schedule, we then beat Peru, New Zealand and Ghana, which was a great result for us, really. I mean, Peru, New Zealand you kind of expect, but a 3-0 win against Ghana was brilliant for us. I'm not quite sure why we actually ended up playing that game in the United States. Do we not have stadiums in Mexico? Well, apparently we play all of our games in the United States. I'm not quite sure why, but that is a thing, apparently. If anyone knows anything about that, do let me know in the comments below. Yeah, so they were three great results. We then obviously had our World Cup qualification group drawn for us. As you can see, we did in fact qualify. But in terms of the fourth round, we had Canada, El Salvador and Haiti in our group, and as you guys can see, we finished top of that group pretty comfortably, as you would expect, with only a single loss, which may actually be a bit of a surprising element, because you'd probably look at these teams and not really expect us to lose any of the games, or you'd look at them and think, you know, we probably lost against Canada. But unfortunately, no, we didn't lose against Canada. We lost 3-0 to El Salvador. A game which I still can't quite comprehend how we lost, because we were dominating the game from back to front. And then cometh the 70th minute, that was when we basically went all guns a-blazing, you know, started throwing men forwards for fun. We had three strikers on at one point, which is really what allowed El Salvador to build the match stats back up and what gave them so many clear-cut chances, because we were trying to push for an equalising goal. And that's why they scored in the 88th minute and 90th minute. So we were robbed, really, but at the end of the day, when you can see 3 goals, were you really robbed? I don't know. So that one in particular was a disappointing result. But if we take a look at some of the other results, another win against Canada there, who were the biggest opposition really in that group. Wins all round. The only real disappointing result was a draw away at Turkey. Maybe a team we should be expecting to beat, even though Turkey tend to produce some pretty regens on the game. But regardless, as we can see, match stats wise, we really didn't play too badly, and on another day we'd have probably found the back of the net especially if we weren't playing away from home. And next up was really the big test for me. So it was a bit of an awkward one going back to England, and it was actually them that offered me the chance to play them in a friendly match. And for those that don't know, I managed England at one point on this save, and it kind of ended a bit sour. As you probably expect it to end with a nation like England. You never know, we might end up going back to them in the future if they take us back when we have to tackle on Europe. But as you can see, we won 4-3 at Wembley, which really was an absolutely phenomenal result. And you know what? I'm going to show you guys the goals. But just before that, I just want to kind of emphasise the point that, yes, we gave away 4 clear-cut chances. But the fact that we came to Wembley and still managed 6 clear-cut chances really does say a lot about the creativity we have in this midfield. And when we get the balance right, we really, really can be a great footballing team. So here we go then. Here are the highlights. And I think as we watch this, I can kind of maybe point out some of kind of, you know, the ways we're looking to play football. So as you saw there from Hernandez down that right wing, he kind of times his run, and the fact that we have both fullbacks on support kind of also ensures that when one fullback goes forwards, the other one doesn't necessarily go forwards either. Now, defensively, you know, we're not the best, and we'll see that, and that was a really disappointing goal to concede. But I feel like where our strengths lie with Mexico, which is really what will make the difference in terms of winning the next CONCACAF Gold Cup, is the amount of technical ability that we have within the final third. Defensively, we're going to struggle. Defensively, we're going to come up against some decent offences. But in terms of going forwards, in terms of having players like Rincon there, as we saw, who can find the killer pass from the central area. You see there, Colin drops deep behind the 2 strikers. And while he scores the goal there, he was the one that picked up the ball off the midfielder and then threaded it towards the front 2 who were playing on the shoulders of the last defenders. It's all about that central pressure and just, you know, utilising those technical central players and their passing ability. And those were the goals. It's funny, really, when you consider the last goal went in the 64th minute, yet you had 7 goals overall. But that was it. Hopefully you saw glimpses there of how we're looking to play. A real sprinkle of fullback here and there, but most of our kind of attacking is going to be coming through them central playmakers. Now, let's take a look at the 5th round of the World Cup qualifiers. Now, we kind of have to qualify for the World Cup because we're Mexico. And considering that 1st, 2nd and 3rd place qualify for the World Cup, I've got to admit this format is ever so slightly simpler than Asia and Africa that we've experienced in the past. I can't see us not finishing in the top 3. I think worst case scenario, the United States finish top and we only manage 2nd. You see where I'm coming from? So we should really bag ourselves a place at the next World Cup, which will mean I'll be managing at my 4th World Cup on this save. Because I think the first one was with England and then we had 2 with Egypt, I think. I might be wrong. It could be our 3rd. I'm not sure. Let's qualify first, then we'll worry about it. So yeah, that's where we are with Mexico. We should be okay in terms of qualifying. But as we know, the main aim for us is to become champions of North America. But if we can top this group, most of these teams are going to be our kind of major opposition teams in terms of the next CONCACAF Gold Cup. So if we can put our foot down, prove that we've got the better players, allow some of the lads within the squad to gel, because we've got a nice mixture of youth and experience, then hopefully, you know, we'll put our foot down and get our hands on another piece of silverware in a few years' time. And that's really going to be it for this episode. It was just a quick update episode now that I actually have a voice. Top goal scorer is Martin Ruiz. You know, not phenomenal. 28 years old, but to be fair to the lad, he's getting the job done. And as long as he's getting the job done, I'm happy with that. 14 acceleration, 15 pace, decent strength, which is important up front as well, up against strong centre-backs, versatile player too. And, you know, that's why he works well as a poacher, because, you know, he's got that extra bit of burst of pace, and we're not coming up against world-class European centre-backs here, with all due respect. We're coming up against Canadian and American centre-backs. So, you know, this extra bit of pace, extra bit of pressure on them centre-backs, playing 2 poachers with the guy coming in between them, playmaking and making runs into the box in a Lampard-esque fashion. I think we've got a pretty decent attack on us here. in Mexico. But if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. In terms of the next episode, I kind of almost feel like there's probably not much point in showing you guys the World Cup qualifiers. But what I'm thinking of doing is basically playing the first few, and then, depending on how it's going, coming back to kind of this game, because it's a big game against the United States, right? Or this game because it's a big game against Costa Rica. But if we win every game up until this point, we've pretty much guaranteed qualification, and it almost feels like there's not really too much point in me showing you any of these qualifiers. You'd probably rather we fast forwarded ahead to the next CONCACAF Gold Cup to see if we can actually achieve the aim of this International Pentagon Challenge and defeat North America in only a couple of episodes. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.